The Kansas Children's Cabinet and Trust Project, along with Washburn University School of Law's Children and Family Law Center, present a webinar on child development and family systems. This presentation was created by Washburn University School of Law students Samantha Erazo, Riley Franek, and Jackie Hanzok. This presentation is one of 6 in this project. We will be referencing some of the other topics in our presentation today, and you can find them all on the Children and Family Law Center website. This presentation will focus on aspects of child development and family systems that attorneys should know in order to give effective representation to children. These topics include child development, capacity of the child, and family systems. Understanding these concepts will increase the interaction between the child and the attorney, resulting in better representation for the child. Some basic vocabulary for the presentation are child, cognitive development, and family. When the word child is used throughout this presentation, we are talking about a human between the ages of birth and 17. Cognitive development is the way that a child learns to think, reason, and use language. Each of these is vital to their growth and development. A family is a group of one or more parents and their children living together as a unit. The first topic we will discuss is the different stages within child development and why the legal community should look into the development of a child in a child case. Child development is from birth until 17 years of age. Early child development is a specific period that is most significant for a child. The early developmental period spans the prenatal period to 8 years of age and is the most intensive period of brain development throughout the lifespan. This period is the most critical time for the growth and development of the child, and the child needs the utmost attention and appropriate care. Middle childhood development occurs from 8 to 12 years and helps to refine cognitive skills and interpersonal relationships. Adolescence development is from 12 to 17 years and is time for diverse growth and cements cognitive skills. Early childhood development is the basis for success later in life. During this period of development, there are many changes that occur. The baby stage is from birth to around 2 years of age and is the biggest period of brain development. During this time, the child's brain develops rapidly. The toddler stage is from about 18 months to 3 years, and children are learning to be more communicative and independent. During this time, a child will be displaying a range of feelings like affection and fear. Independence is crucial in this stage as the child is learning to walk and wanting to be independent with feeding and dressing. Independence also comes through when the child is testing boundaries during this stage. The preschooler stage occurs from about 3 years to 6 years of age and is all about exploration. As previously discussed, brain development starts from prenatal and is important during the baby stage of development. The brain grows throughout adulthood, but the first 8 years build the foundation for future learning. By the age of 3, a child's brain has reached almost 90% of its adult size. The child's brain develops rapidly, creating plenty of opportunities for learning and development. More importantly, the care and experience a child has within the first 3 years determine the capacity of the brain to develop. Brain development is much more than just genes. The brain needs proper nutrition starting in pregnancy. The brain can be affected by children's experiences because the structure and neurological pathways may change. And exposure to toxin or infections will also affect the brain. Children's experiences are also essential in development outside of just brain development. A child can have a good start in life growing up in a nurturing and stimulating environment that meets all the child's essential needs such as nutrition, health, safety, and psychological, social, spiritual, and intellectual needs. Meeting these needs means that a child has a greater chance of reaching their full potential. If positive experiences do not happen, the pathways needed for normal human experiences may be lost. However, there are many ways to combat unideal conditions, like protective factors and early intervention. Early brain stimulation is significant for vulnerable children exposed to violence and trauma, inadequate nutrition, and toxic environments. Stimulation of the brain has many benefits. Stimulation helps to prevent changes in the brain structure caused by unideal situations like trauma and stress. There are many ways to stimulate a child's brain. One way to stimulate the brain is through play, helping the child use their body and senses, developing their thinking and intelligence. Stimulation of the brain also occurs through talking with a child, aiding in the development of their auditory and visual senses. Stimulation is imperative during the early years of child development as it lays the foundation for the child's school readiness skills, equipping the child with a basis for formal reading and math. Stimulation also improves the child's social skills. Brain stimulation does not only help the child, but there are advantages to the parent. Because the parent is engaging with the child, the parent and the child are bonding. This bonding gives the child a sense of security and self-esteem and establishes a healthy relationship with the parent. The brain development of infants, as well as their social, emotional, and cognitive development, depends on a loving bond or attachment relationship with a primary caregiver, usually their parent. During middle childhood, 8 to 12 years, a child will understand some basic abstract concepts while refining cognitive skills and interpersonal relationships. Middle childhood is all about understanding one's development in a social context. Developing social relationships are critical in providing a resource for coping that lessens the detrimental impact of stressors on well-being. Positive social interactions promote well-being by increasing self-esteem. Adolescence development is the most critical period for cognitive development. Cognitive development is essential for processing information and transferring that information to actual knowledge. Children who have a delay in their cognitive skills will find school challenging and processing other information relayed to them also challenging. An ACE is an adverse childhood experience that is anything in a child's environment that can affect their ability to bond, to be safe, and to be stable. The Center for Disease Control conducted a study that divided ACEs into abuse, neglect, and household challenges/adversity, although the original study called this household dysfunction. ACEs can affect child development in that they are exposed to toxic stress, which can affect the brain and that children can have difficulty completing school and struggle to learn. Continued exposure to toxic stress is like revving a car engine for days and causes the body to activate a stress response on biological systems like the immune system, cardiovascular system, and the child's developing brain, leading to a wear and tear-like effect on the body. Most importantly, as discussed further in depth in the ACEs presentation, having more than one ACE leads to an increase in the potential for increased risk of adverse outcomes in over 40 different areas well into adulthood. An important distinction is that even though ACEs are common, not every child will have one. In contrast, every child will go through child development, just at varying speeds. For more information on ACEs, we have a video in this series that goes more in depth. A study conducted in 2013 examined the relationship between ACEs and long-term health outcomes. In this chart, they created a pyramid with the base being adverse childhood experiences, then disrupted neurodevelopment, social, emotional, and cognitive impairment, adoption of health risk behaviors, disease, disability, and social problems, and then early death. As one moves up the pyramid, they are going from conception to death. This study found that ACEs, in particular abuse, could lead to smaller brain sizes depending on various factors. Courses in family law may give attorneys and judges the ability to determine what is practical in legal decision-making. However, the courses do not provide absolute knowledge. There is other knowledge needed to determine many factors in the maturity level of children expressing their wishes in custody cases, or to determine what is in the children's best interest regarding parental placement. The appointment of a lawyer to represent the interest of a child is a means of enabling child empowerment. However, the child may not feel empowered at the start of working with an attorney because of child developmental factors. In the context of working with children, the role of a lawyer is to facilitate participation and minimize the trauma associated with proceedings. Understanding child development will improve judicial decisions and outcomes for children because judges understand what the child needs depending on their developmental stage. Protecting children gives them ways to express their needs and to solve the issues arising from the situation, and creates a supportive environment for them to thrive despite their circumstances.
We will now transition into child capacity and how the law determines if capacity exists. Capacity is a concept used in a variety of professions, which has resulted in there being multiple types of capacity, and they are not always in agreement with each other. Capacity is not defined by a specific age, although it can be indicative of capacity. While an individual is developing, they are typically determined to have capacity at 18 in the legal field, as established in re Galt. This is in agreement with the fact that an individual is able to exercise their rights independently without parental intervention at the age of 18, as established in Bellotti v. Baird and Kingsley v. Kingsley. Thus, children are presumed not to have legal capacity, and their parents make decisions for them until they reach an age, commonly 18, where they can make those choices independently. Yet, there are exceptions that allow a minor to make decisions in certain situations, like signing up to be an organ donor when they get their driver's license, although their parents will make that ultimate decision, emancipated minors, married minors, and minors operating under the mature minor doctrine, which allows them to make medical decisions in non-life-threatening situations. Although children do not have the legal capacity to be making independent decisions for themselves, that does not mean that they should have no say at all. Children may have small voices, but they do have voices that need to be heard, even in a courtroom. Why does child development and capacity matter to attorneys? Understanding child development will improve judicial decision-making and improve outcomes for children. Courses in family law may give attorneys and judges the ability to determine what is practical in a legal decision-making. However, they do not provide the knowledge needed to determine the maturity level of children expressing their own wishes in custody cases, or to determine what is in the best interest of the children regarding parental placement. By having a background in child development and how capacity fluctuates through the lifetime, even a very basic one, an attorney is better suited to advocating for a minor's best interest. They will understand what a child is needing. If the child, based on an individual evaluation of that child's maturity, is able to make an informed decision based on reason and logic, and adequately and appropriately argue for a solution that meets that child's particular needs, developmental level, and maturity, rather than a one-size-fits-all solution. Representing kids and managing your expectations. Children at different developmental stages will change how they interact with you and the legal system. A child's ability to use language, just like their cognitive development, changes as they grow up. Babies usually engage in cooing or babbling at the early stages of speech development. It won't be until they are about a year old that they begin to say words like mama or dada, but they won't realize what they are saying. As attorneys, this means that even if a child is vocalizing things like mama or dada, you should be cautious. As a toddler, there is a lot of variability in the language explosion period. They can begin to combine words and follow two-step commands from their parents. As they reach 2 to 3 years old, they will be able to comprehend more and combine words into short sentences describing what they want. An infant lives in the present moment and lacks the ability to understand that objects outside of their immediate perception still exist. Younger children may struggle with logical thought. For an attorney, this can mean that using logic with a young child is not going to work. You will have to put it into terms that they understand. These children also use symbolism, which can require an attorney to ask what they mean by certain words, as it could be a filler for something else entirely. Around adolescence, children are thinking about concrete events and able to reason with them logically. When a child is around 12, they are able to think abstractly and imagine the outcome of particular actions. Further, a child's developmental level can affect their memory, comprehension, sense of time, linguistic ability, and attention span. As frustrating as it may be, children may feel like they haven't spoken to their attorney in forever, when in reality it has been weeks, and attorneys need to understand and recognize that and explain this to their clients. These children may also need to be brought back to the task at hand a few times while meeting with you as they lose their focus. Giving children voices in the legal arena. All children, from the smallest infant to the 18-year-old, have a voice, and they need for their voice to be heard. It is true that a baby cannot tell you what they want or what they need, but that does not mean that they don't have a voice. How a child gets to have their voice heard in the legal system will differ based on their developmental level. Although the legal system does allow for guardian ad litems to be appointed, it is important that these attorneys understand the development level of their clients so that they can adequately represent them and allow them to participate in the case at a developmentally appropriate level. For an older child or teenager, it may be appropriate for them to testify in court, write a letter to the judge, or meet with the judge in chambers. For an infant, the same strategy would not work, but having a professional evaluation would ensure that their needs are still met. When it comes to interviewing children, it is important to meet with them individually. Siblings can talk over each other and say things that further enhance the rift between family members and siblings. One type of interviewing used is the National Institute of Child Health and Human Development Investigative Interview protocol, which is used during forensic interviews. These are typically conducted in alleged sexual abuse situations in order to allow a child to tell their story of what happened. The state of Kansas has codified best interest factors that are to be looked at when considering child custody as KSA 233203. Although they are codified in the divorce section of the code, these factors are also used in sync proceedings. There are 14 factors codified. Child's interaction and relationship with parents, siblings, and any other family members in the household. Child's preference, depending on age and maturity. Child's age. Child's emotional and physical needs. These are the factors that relate to child development. It is important to understand how a child develops in order to adequately represent the child, make a sound legal argument for your client getting custody, or as a judge to determine where that child will be staying. A judge is to look at these factors in addition to all possible relevant evidence to determine what is in the best interest of the child. For instance, a child's preference may be a major factor to be considered for a teenager, while a toddler may not be able to reliably state a preference. Family systems. Families are each different, and each family is the sum of its parts. A family is a living system whose members are interacting. Lawyers often look at children as separate persons from the family system, but the only way to fully understand a person is to look at the individual in the context of their family and to understand the family's interactions. By understanding family systems, lawyers and judges may be better able to make better informed decisions regarding a child. Family structures. we are going to move briefly into the different types of family structures. Because a family is an interconnected system, a basic overview of family structures is important to understand, as the family structure can also affect the family system. Each family structure comes with its own challenges and adversities that it may face, so it is important to have a basic understanding of what possible family structures you may encounter in your work. Types of family structures. There are many different family structures that may exist within a family system. Family structure is less important than the health or strength of a family system. Even in the case of divorce, the family system in and of itself can stay healthy. Some different types of family structures are as follows. The nuclear family involves a married couple living with their biological children. A step-parent family involves a biological parent of a child living with their spouse in a new marriage. This is sometimes called a two-parent household. A single-parent household has a parent raising their child on their own. Oftentimes, this parent is the mother. Cohabitation is when two people in an intimate relationship are living together and raising their child together. An adoptive household involves parents raising a child that they have adopted. An extended family is when the family extends beyond just the parents and their children. This household may include grandparents, aunts, uncles, grandchildren, cousins, and other relatives. A kinship household is like an extended household, except it does not include the biological parents of the child. An LGBTQ+ household encompasses a wide variety of family types and includes those households with at least one member who identifies as a member of the LGBTQ+ community. Again, the family system can be healthy regardless of which family structure or structures it consists of. Attorneys must be sure to focus on the health of the family system and not discount any particular family structure. Types of family systems. Now we will cover an overview of family systems and how an understanding of family systems can relate to the legal field.
In a family, the responsibility of influence is shared. Looking at family through the system lens helps not attach blame to one person, as oftentimes there are multiple influences occurring. For example, if person A influences person B can also influence A. Influence may not necessarily be equal between family members, but there is still influence between members of a family system. Certain behaviors by one family member may influence behaviors of another, even without realization from within the family system itself. Family is composed of subsystems, which are broken down into coalitions. A coalition is comprised of two or more family members. This coalition may promote unity or harmony within the family system, or it may be divisive. Parents are often formed into a coalition. A stable coalition between two parents can lead to an effective family system. This is to say that if two parents have formed a coalition within the family system and they are able to communicate effectively, are on the same page, and tend to promote unity within the family, there is most likely better results than a parental coalition that does not work well together, places blame on the other, or form a triangulation within the family system. When there is a destructive coalition between parents, sometimes divorce can promote healthier interactions. Attorneys and judges can promote support that helps divorcing parents work through this in a healthy way, although sometimes a divide in the coalition and parallel parenting can be the healthiest route. What is triangulation? Triangulation occurs when two members of a system are in conflict and try to make an ally of another family member in an attempt to avoid actual resolution of the conflict. In this illustration, the squares are in conflict with each other and have introduced a third party into the system as a method of avoidance. This can be seen when parents are in conflict with each other, but instead shift their focus onto a child. Triangulation is typical in family systems. We tend to think this is something that only happens in the context of divorce, but in reality, this is common in family system behavior. As lawyers, our goal should be to help divorcing parents become more aware and reflective of their parenting behaviors, understanding that some degree of triangulation is typical in an intact family system, just as in a divorcing family. This can reduce pathologization of divorcing parents. Next, we cover healthy family functions and the general goals of family systems. It is important to understand that each dimension of family functioning looks different in each family. These dimensions of family functioning include problem solving, communication, roles, affective responsiveness, affective involvement, and behavior control. Breaking these down into a little more detail, problem solving is defined as a family's ability to resolve problems in a way that maintains overall effective family functioning. Communication is how information is exchanged with a focus on verbal exchanges. Communication and problem solving do often overlap. For example, problem solving would include considering how a family deals with new information, their adaptability to new circumstances, and their ability to share new information among family members. This includes communication as well. Looking at roles, roles are the recurring patterns of behavior by individuals within the family to fulfill family functions. This includes who takes out the trash, cleaning, cooking, repairs. Affective responsiveness is the ability of an individual to respond to another with appropriate feelings. This is important because family members interact with each other on a regular basis. Affective involvement is the degree of family interest and involvement with one another. In other words, how family members show interest and invest themselves in one another. An easy example of this is a family that attends after-school events to support their children. Behavior control is the pattern a family adopts for handling behavior in different situations. It is important to consider the behavior of all family members in each situation. Cultures define the limits of what is desirable and define the range and focus of personal variation that is accepted and rewarded. Therefore, different cultures approach socialization differently. Even with these cultural differences, there are three common goals of socialization. These are the development of conscience, role preparation or performance, which may include occupational, gender, and roles related to marriage or parenthood, and the cultivation of sources of meaning and value. In all cultures, parents draw their parenting practice from the culture that surrounds them. Socialization within a family includes the extended family in many other cultures. There are a myriad of reasons why understanding family systems is important in many fields, be it law, social work, education. It is important to have an understanding of how families function as a system. This knowledge is useful when evaluating a child's situation, a parent's situation, and of course, the situation of an entire family. We all know that the legal system sets limits on behavior, but one often forgotten piece of the legal system is that it is built on Western culture and values. which, as we stated previously, not every family follows the same socialization pattern. If a family does not follow the Western culture values, then it is possible that an attorney will need to work with them to provide more resources and even education if necessary. Whether we intend to or not, we all have personal bias when it comes to families. We may think that the family we lived in as a child growing up is the ideal family, or even the inverse. The reality is that the nuclear family does not work for everyone, and that is okay. Families of all types need to be respected. It is important as an advocate to meet the client where they are at. The family is the only one who can tell you how they react to change and what is feasible for them. As an attorney, it is important to work with your client to come up with a solution that works for that specific family, not some generic family that may have access to different resources. Focusing on creating an alliance will help to ensure that the attorney is working with the client and not inadvertently against the client. Child development, child capacity, and family systems are all concepts that legal professionals should understand. Most family court judges and lawyers are well educated and experienced in family law, but have little formal education regarding child development, child capacity, and the family system. After this presentation, we hope you understand that children who receive support from their family members are positively aided in their development and may feel a greater sense of self-worth. Their enhanced self-esteem is a psychological resource, encouraging optimism, positive affect, and better mental health. We also hope that you take away that although children do not have the legal capacity to be making independent decisions for themselves, this does not mean that they should have no say at all. As a lawyer, it is critical in being the child's voice. Furthermore, we hope that you understand family systems when evaluating a child's situation, a parent's situation, and of course, an entire family. Understanding childhood development, child capacity, and the family system will improve judicial decision making and improve outcomes for children.